Yasuke is one of the two main playable protagonists in Assassin's Creed Shadows. With strength, skill, and combat intelligence as his main focus, Yasuke will give us a taste of samurai combat in a feudal Japan setting. In this video, I'm going to cover everything we know so far about Yasuke, including his backstory and the historical figure he's based on, his weapons and combat play style, and some implications of where he might go in the story.
The other shadows
that serve the light.
Yasuke is the first protagonist in the Assassin's Creed franchise to be based off a real historical figure. Whilst we don't know masses about the real life Yasuke, we do know that he is a man of African descent who came as a foreigner to Japan alongside the Jesuits in 1579. During this period in Japan, people of African descent were not very common and garnished a lot of interest from the locals. This included Oda Nobunaga, who was a powerful Japanese warlord and the main antagonist set for Assassin's Creed Shadows. In 1581, he was brought into Oda Nobunaga's service and granted a sword, house, and stipend, offering him the status of samurai. And that is where we pick up Yasuke's story in Assassin's Creed Shadows in service as a key general to Oda Nobunaga. Where his story goes from there, that's something we'll theorise a little bit later. The real draw to Yasuke is his combat. Whereas Naoe focuses a lot on stealth and parkour and assassinations, Yasuke is fully focused on getting the job done through great combat skills, interesting mechanics, and a bit of brute force. Yasuke is much stronger than Naoe and wields a lot heavier weapons which can deal massive damage and is built for fighting multiple enemies at once. As for his weapons, we know he will have the long katana, a classic weapon for any samurai that does quick and deadly damage. The katana is built for sleek combat, being able to slice through enemies, perform parries, and even counterattack through perfect dodges. For more heavily armoured enemies though, you might want to switch to Yasuke's kanabo, a heavy spiked club that can break through posture, break through armour, and give an opening for Yasuke to get that final execution. Yasuke is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with, and that will attract a lot of attention from not just one enemy, but probably multiple, and that is where his naginata will come in handy. The naginata is a spear-like weapon which can be used for sweeping attacks to take out multiple enemies at once, and as we can see from some of the footage, pairs with some of the special abilities well to deal some big AoE damage. As you can see from the 3 melee weapons so far, Yasuke is really built to get up in people's faces and fight in that hand-on-hand, weapon-on-weapon combat. Yasuke isn't just built for melee combat however, and will have some ranged weapons you can use to mix it up a little bit. The first range option he has includes the Yumi bow, which can be drawn back and used to get some silent kills without drawing too much attention. The Yumi bow is going to be a very effective tool to use to take out some enemies before starting the main physical combat as Yasuke, just to make sure any rooftop enemies with guns or bows themselves aren't able to take you out while you're trying to fight multiple enemies at once. For a slightly louder approach, you can use the Teppo rifle as Yasuke, which is a very slow acting rifle that can shoot down enemies but will probably be a bit more effective with the damage no matter where you hit them on the body. The really interesting thing about combat within Yasuke is the ability to switch between both these melee and ranged options. Within his weapon slots, he can choose between 2 weapons. This may be 2 melee weapons such as the kanabo and katana, or you can choose, which is advised, 1 melee and 1 ranged, such as the Teppo rifle and maybe the katana as well. This gives you a little bit more freedom about how you want to use Yasuke for combat. He doesn't just have to be running in there and hitting people down with big heavy weapons. He can take a slightly more methodical and slow approach with the range options as well. However, if that is your playstyle, Naoe is probably the character more suited for that. Within Yasuke's combat, he has a real focus and design around being able to chain attacks together and having a lot of fluidity within his combat mechanics. This includes things such as perfect dodges, special counter attacks available, and chaining posture attacks with light attacks to deal quick, efficient, and effective damage to enemies he's in combat with. The developers put a real focus on this fluidity of combat, really highlighting the swordsmanship that samurai were known for, being able to move swiftly between targets and fight multiple enemies at once without it feeling clunky or kind of out of place. Combat is definitely the area Yasuke is built for, so if you really enjoyed some of the larger fort fights that were in Odyssey or some of the Valhalla sieges, Yasuke fits a lot more into that playstyle with just upgraded mechanics to make it feel even better. Both protagonists have clear advantages and disadvantages, and that is the whole point of why they've had this 2 protagonist system. Yasuke is your go-to for raw combat mechanics. If you want to have those katana fights or knock enemies down with the kanabo, he is the one you want to be playing as. And he is built for that, with heavier armor making him a bit more tanky and a lot more strength, so he can pick up objects that Naoe can't. He also has the ability to shoulder charge when he's up on full sprint, which is a pretty fun mechanic if you ask me, being able to go through destructible objects and likely even knock down some enemies on the way. Where Yasuke draws the short straw is in his parkour and agility. He's not really built for trying to climb up on rooftops and get key advantage positions. While he can do this, he is just much slower than Naoe in it and doesn't have access to the assassin's hidden blade for easy assassinations. This is really highlighted by the fact that he can't even leap of faith. Having two such distinct playstyles for the two protagonists really gives you as the player the option to choose what you want for each mission and situation, or your overall playthrough about how you want to play the game. Do you want to be slow, methodical, and assassination based like Naoe, or do you want to run in, break the door down with your shoulder charge, and beat everyone to death as Yasuke? So what is Yasuke's role in the main story? We know he starts the game in the service of Oda Nobunaga, the main antagonist of the game, and actually is one of the people involved in the attack of the province of Iga, which destroys Naoe's home. You can see from the cinematic trailer there is definitely an early strain between these two characters, but something changes along the way that bring these two together in a common cause, like the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Yasuke is described as intelligent, thoughtful, and very respectful of the Japanese customs that he's been brought into coming to Japan. I think this might be part of the reason why he moves away from Oda Nobunaga within the story. From what we've seen Yasuke be a part of already within the story, I don't think this aligns with his personality and his sense of justice. I think that's what's going to draw him into working with Naoe and instead focusing his efforts on bringing justice for the people of Japan. The relationship with him and Naoe is definitely going to be strained at points. I think he's going to offer a bit of a father figure to Naoe, which she's going to be quite resistant to. Her being described as a fiery, intense, and likely rash person with an underlying tone of revenge in her motivations, Yasuke is going to be the complete opposite pillar to that, wanting to do things more thoughtfully and consider every decision that is being made, and probably not want to stir the pot too much. Therefore, Yasuke's approach to decision making with the game, if you choose to play him, will likely be less risky, but maybe less effective at getting the job done. However, you could consider more of the consequences of the actions and therefore stop the characters from going down paths you may not actually intend. This is definitely your speculation. I hope we get a story reveal trailer soon. However, I'd love to know what your theories are down in the comments, along with what you think about his combat mechanics, his backstory, and how you're feeling about playing a samurai in feudal Japan. If you did enjoy this video, drop a like and subscribe. I'll be posting content all the way up to the game's release with guides, information, news, and everything you want to see. And when the game is out, there'll be more guides and information to help you through the game when we're there. Until then guys, keep well, and I'll see you in the next video.